And we will start with no public hearing, agenda review. Are there any items on the agenda for which select board members would like to reorder the agenda? All right, seeing none, let's move to public comment. Bear with me 1 second.
Hello?
Just sorry, one
Sure.
second. Okay, this is the period of the agenda where the public is welcome to address the select board. We ask that one addresses issues not already scheduled on the agenda. We ask that individuals restrict their comments to 5 minutes. Questions will be directed to the chair of the select board. The chair will decide whether to answer questions or to take comments under advisement. And if you could please identify yourself and your address, please.
Yes, Jane Masters, 15 Willow Spring Circle. I just came to say thank you for the sidewalk on Verona. Thank you for all the hard work from all the different town managers and from the Planning Commission and the Bike Walk Committee and Public Works. It's fantastic, and if you could see the people walking and biking and pushing strollers, smiling, I just want to express my thanks. It's been a long wait, but we're all very pleased, speaking from certainly the people at Willow Spring Circle. So thank you.
Terrific, great to hear. Thank you, Jane.
Thanks, Jane, for coming in.
People aren't really nice normally.
Take care.
Okay. Other public comment? Yes, David.
David Vincelette, 93 Levin Street in Hanover. I come here partly because I'm a retired military officer and I sworn an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, public and lost my train of thought. Athos was supposed to be working out something where I would have talk with the selectmen, the town manager. Robert Hausman called me today, returning my phone call, which is a nice feeling because for 2 years, the previous town manager never called me, even though I called him and asked for help. 13 town officials have helped violate federal and state law by holding people in a concentration camp at my home for 25.5 months. Hanover needs to face its past and resolve to do better in the future. To this end, the 4 department heads involved need to answer questions from the public. Peter Kubacki, Robert Hausman, Charlie Dennis, Martin McMillan, all were involved in violating our civil rights. None have been questioned or reprimanded. Hanover is yet to call in state or federal law enforcement to investigate Hanover's crimes, holding racial and religious minorities along with disabled veterans and homeless people in dangerous living conditions for 2 winters. For 19 years, I've reported pollution to the select board. For 8 years, I've come to the select board and reported that our driveway and fire lane were illegally blockaded by Hanover for over 2 years. When it happened, first Peter Christie refused to answer questions and silenced me for 4 years about Hanover's concentration camp. For my wife, a Ukrainian Jew, the restraint was painful. Mr. Christie was finally voted out, and the town shortly thereafter chose Alex Torpy. He was hired to be the new town manager. Alex was hired for $160,000 a year and never answered my questions or phone calls during his 2 years here. He refused to put my issues on the agenda so that town officials were exposed to citizens violating citizen civil rights. Alex Torpy hid Hanover's polluting and false imprisonment secret, and I guess he got paid $130,000 payoff for keeping those secrets. What was the $130,000 for?
That was separation agreement.
Yeah, you paid $160,000 a year and you got $65,000 a year bonus? That seems okay?
There's no bonus.
$130,000 severance. That's not a bonus?
No.
So he didn't get 160,000 plus 130,000 and 160,000 for 2 years?
That was severance. That was compensation related to a separation.
How much? What I'm asking is how much money did he get?
It was 135,000. It was in the newspaper, and that was public.
Yes, but that wasn't in addition to his regular pay?
His regular pay was for the period during which he worked.
Right, he worked for 2 years. So that works out to 160,000 a year. He was there till July and he came in June, so I imagine it was at least 2 years. So you're still not answering the question. Did he get 2 years pay plus $135,000?
Correct.
Okay, so he did get a bonus of $130,000. You at least should tell people, because a lot of people are struggling to pay their taxes. And to see that the town manager, who didn't do his duty for 2 years, gets $130,000 or $135,000 severance pay, makes people wonder what you people think where did you get your authority to give money away?
Dave, just have a minute left.
Pardon me?
Just have a minute left.
I asked you a question. Where do you get the authority to give $130,000 of our tax money away?
Select board has that authority.
Okay, you think so? For 8 years, I've explained to the select board that my wife was illegally restrained from our home for 25.5 months. This was a state crime as well as a federal crime. Out of the 6 people who voted to put a fence around us, only 2 remain, Jennifer Wickham and Athos Racius. Recently, the select board voted unanimously to promote Robert Hausman to town manager. The man who helped erect the concentration camp and later opened our driveway under a court order is unfit for this post for abusing humans under his care. Under his care, whatever housing experience he had, he certainly didn't maintain a standard of care for people at my home. We were denied physical access to our property, which meant we could not have any income. We couldn't do woodworking in the shop, and we couldn't rent out rooms. Because we had no money, our electricity was shut off, and we had almost no food. In addition, our chainsaw was taken, and we had little heat. And because of the shut off of our income, they repossessed my truck. So,
David, we're at 5 minutes. Are there any other members of the public who would like to address the select board? No. Okay. Let's move on to town manager report. Rob.
Thank you. In your packet, you have my monthly update. I won't go through it completely. I just want to point out that the deputy fire chief has been named Josh Merriam, promoted from captain. We are now in the process of doing a captain recruitment process and a lieutenant recruitment process, possibly. We also had 2 members of our fire department respond to, our Swiftwater team respond to the flood damage in Vermont on July 30th. Parks and Rec is moving forward with bringing the summer camp program to a close, and the 2-week summer camp, mini camps are starting shortly. We've had some staffing changes, lost a long-term member of Parks and Rec who's moving into a new position, and we've gained a new landscape manager. The Allen Street block party was held on July 26th and 27th. And for all practical purposes, it was a great success. We've learned some things from the experience, and we'll include that in our debrief as we wind this project down and report out to the select board, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as I like to say, and really understand how this event, the closure works, and how we can manage it better in the future if we choose to move forward with it.
That people like salsa, both to dance to and to eat.
Yes, salsa was the hit in both cases. As you know, we have two new police officers who've started. One's at the academy, one's going through their 4-week officer training program here on site. We had some outreach to the campus, college campus, dealing with waterfront assessment. Both police and fire took place in that, along with safety services to address some safety issues. Our library continues to move forward with their program, changing out the children's area shelving. They've donated that to another hospital, library. Sorry, another library down a couple towns down, so saving them some money and renovating their library. Losing the youth services assistant after 15 years of service, Gary Bart, and we have Sandra, I don't want to mess up this name, Vanderpolge, who just completed the Upper Valley Leadership Program, so exciting news there. And we have a new librarian accepted to the New England Library Leadership Development Program. Etna Library continues to do unique and enjoyable things for Etna. Magic show was held last week. 120 people attended.
Holy moly. How did they fit that many people in the library?
And they have an ice cream social on August 17th, where they'll give out raffle prizes to readers. And Public Works, lots of changes at Public Works, internal promotions. Jim Cray's moved to Highway and Utilities. Dylan McDermott to Wastewater Treatment Supervisor. Chris Berry to Highway Supervisor. Dan Morrissey to Senior Heavy Equipment Operator. Adrian Kudamarsh moved from Administrative Coordinator to fill the role of billings, utility billings, and bidding and purchasing for DPW. And Leah Lucas has been hired as the new administrative assistant. They have 5 openings in the highway crew. We're working to fill those. Work continues on College Street. They're working on coordinating some efforts with the college as they work through their decarbonization efforts. The chilled and hot water crossings are scheduled to go in, and once those are finished, we'll be able to finish up the College Street project. Lebanon Sidewalk is nearly completed. We're working through some items there. Actually, I think it is now completed. The rapid flashing mid-block crossing went in, I believe, today, along with the crosswalk striping. The Water Division completed its digester cleaning, so exciting news. Wastewater, so that's will help the operation there. We're working on upgrades to the plant that's underway. Christina Hall's overseeing 3 engineering interns, including 1 Dartmouth grad student. Exciting to see some young, bright faces working in Public Works.
They came to my house.
Yes, they're out in the field, and Hanover's LED streetlight replacement project has been completed. So we're reducing, which is exciting. One of the things that we're working on is now a lighting policy, so that we can deal with how we program the lights and how people make requests to change that programming. So that it's not, we're not responding to individual requests, we're responding based on geography and volume of traffic and time of day. So that'll be forthcoming, and we'll share that once it's completed. And that concludes my town manager report.
Questions for Rob?
Rob, is there any way that
maybe me and the new volunteers that we're gonna talk about later can do like a orientation type of thing.
Sure.
I would love to go check out.
Yeah, you can add me and Carrie to that. Like, I still haven't seen the wastewater plant. There's a whole bunch. I haven't ridden on any trucks. I know Nancy did. Nancy rode like a snowplow at night, and I have not.
In a blizzard,
Yeah.
with the
So,
strobing lights reflecting off of every
There's-
snowflake.
No, it's, I mean, I think it's a great idea.
I don't mean to task you with more things.
No, we can certainly coordinate that. We'd be excited to show you what the taxpayers have invested in over time.
Okay.
It's actually quite fascinating.
And I would, one of the first things we did when the kids were at the race school, we showed them where we get our clean water and where the dirty water goes. And they still talk about that really fun time that they had with their parents. But the supervisors of the facilities are awesome. So if you ever do want to do that, you know,
We'll coordinate that.
Okay, that would be awesome.
Our solar field up by the water treatment
Yeah.
plant is pretty impressive. Water treatment, wastewater treatment, distribution network. We can highlight a bunch of stuff.
Okay, be terrific. With respect to the police department, you mentioned 3 sworn officer vacancies, but the hiring process for 5 entry level, is that
We have 5 applicants.
5 applicants?
And so there's a formal process that they have to go through to submit and
The 3 slots?
3 slots.
Okay. Great. All right, any other questions for Rob?
I did have one other one. So like the highway department down 5 members, and then certain projects are not moving along because we're down. How does that affect the money that's been budgeted to the highway department?
So some of the projects are not as appropriated for up to 5 years, lapsing accounts, so they just roll over.
Right.
The Verona Road sidewalk is an example of that 5-year non-lapsing account. This was the last year to use it, and we used it.
Gotcha.
Some of the examples we have is we've postponed street painting where we can get away with it.
Yeah.
So this line painting, we do internally. And it may require us to rethink that in the near term, contract it out. We tried to contract certain element out 2 years ago, or last year, and the summer weather it never was dry enough to paint. So, the ability to have it in-house gives us that flexibility rather than getting in a queue and being part of a queue that gets pushed out further and further. But they prioritize those things that are health and safety first and then chunk away at the other things. We do have a very unique public works department, and I do like to tout their horn in that we actually design and build projects. Whereas most municipalities contract that out.
but if we don't have staff to do it,
We
then
might need
we're
to
not,
contract it
then
out.
we can design all we want. If we can't build it, it's,
So one of the elements that we need to program in if we can't reach our hiring goals is to figure out how we do exactly that, which is contract out.
Gotcha.
I can say that Public Works has demonstrated that it's more cost effective in the long term to do it in-house. Time and time again. But with that said, the other thing they do I love touting their horn in many ways, but their storm preparedness program is very special. And one of the things that they do is actually blow our drainage ditches clear of obstructions before a big event. And what that eliminates is what you may know as strainers or branches and leaves that get caught and then cause the culvert to fail. You'll notice that our roads aren't subject to the same damages that most of our neighboring communities are because of this effort. So far.
I'm just knocking on
I
wood.
know, we're trying to keep that.
When I looked out the window, I was like, what is all that noise? I looked out the window and I could hardly see my driveway last night, and I was like, oh no, it's hitting us. So.
And it's this Friday and Saturday. big storm. So again, I'll talk to Pete, see if we can get an update as to how we can proceed, what he's going to table, and how it impacts the long-term plans for the department.
But then if that money's not spent on payroll and projects, it goes into the undesignated fund
Yes,
balance,
it does.
and then that can get spent in other ways through town meetings.
Well, no, because we voted to spend it on certain
So if it's
things.
a specific capital project, it stays in an
Like
in a-
Verona
in a-
was a
in a- in
specific
a,
sidewalk, and
fund.
it just took 5 years.
Any
to build it.
unexpended wages rolls into the unexpended fund balance. of it.
So those 5 empty positions
Yeah.
are sitting, that
Yeah.
money is sitting there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions from the public for Rob on his town manager report? No? Okay, thanks, Rob. Let's move on to business requiring discussion, the first of which is a follow-up discussion on future presidential elections for 2028 and beyond. A little bit of context here. There were some concerns around the presidential election, just the sheer volume of folks who participate at that particular election. And so there have been discussions in the past about potentially not having school on that day. But I think as far as this year goes, we are committed and feel comfortable with the arrangement of having school in session, but maybe for future years, we would consider alternatives. So Rob, you've had some discussions, and other people have had some discussions. Do you want to summarize that?
Very briefly, I'll touch on it. So Bobby, our town clerk, has had some concerns and related to the select board that the police had concerns also. And it was in reference to an April 1st meeting at the school to discuss the elections. And in my memo, I recapped the recollection of the lieutenant. And in general terms, it was a sidebar comment that didn't get any traction because it was too late in the game. And the police, in hindsight, didn't think it was a major concern. And given all of this, I thought it was appropriate to address it for future presidential elections. We have the opportunity to say, moving forward in 2028 and beyond, would that give the school enough time to program in their calendar to either have it as a in-service day or some other type of structured day where the students weren't in school. And I'm making that recommendation for you to consider tonight.
I'm like a big fan of education and a big fan of elections and a big fan of the students seeing the elections. And I have a hard time with the idea of requesting that school not be in effect due to parking and traffic issues. That would close all Los Angeles schools pretty much every day. So, I think we've handled it really well. I think we can handle it. I think both of these things, school and elections, are very important and really shouldn't be put on pause in that way. Like it's our community space that we've chosen to have the elections, and we haven't come up with a better one, Yeah.
I'm just following up on the discussion and
Yep. I mean, I concur with you. I mean, this came up a couple years ago, and the school wanted us to go to Dartmouth or go someplace else to hold the elections. Like we did during COVID, we held voting in Lebanon. And they're like, do that. Because we're concerned about the safety of our students. And the select board at the time, and Athos helped me here, but I think we all felt like, wait a minute, the school is our community. Let's figure out a way to keep the elections in the high school and address, there's space there, close off the hall, you can isolate students from, none of us are really that. We didn't like the idea that students couldn't, they have to go outdoors to get in to vote. And they used to be able to just come in from the CAF and vote. So that was a change that was a compromise to address the school's concern on safety. And then, we shifted the parking. But in my mind, the voters should have the ease of getting into this space. And that back entrance, it has crappy lighting. And it's, we saw several people, almost a couple people fell because the entrance is not accessible or good accessibility in that back. So I'm with you, Jenny. I think that, Rob, I don't think they should be closing school in the presidential election. I think we should,
It's
like
also
you
like
had said.
up to the school board. I just don't think we should ask them to close school. I guess that was kind of the ask, right? Do we ask them, right?
Yeah, and we don't have the authority. So really, it's a conversation. So on the ADA concerns though, Rob, if you want to follow up with the schools.
ADA and lighting.
ADA and lighting, yeah. I think that would be helpful. And we'll see how this year goes, and they can be aware that we're thinking about it for future years.
Okay.
I don't think we don't need to take a motion on this.
We have someone from the.
Public comment.
Yes, I'm sorry, Nancy. Yes, please.
So I'm Nancy Carter, Barrett Road, Hanover. I'm in favor of all the things. Jenny's in favor of public education and kids seeing people vote and so forth. I also am keenly aware of the potential for disruption from the citizenry, or just accidental disruption because there'd be so many people wanting to vote. Rob's comment was, and I'm going to put it in quotes, that the school, quote, does not have the flexibility to alter their schedules on short notice. Well, I don't know what a snow day is, folks. If that doesn't fit that definition, I don't think this is short notice for 2024. And I'm just bringing it to your attention, and it's also my intent to go talk to the Dresden School Board, know those folks well, and the superintendent of schools, and if they, wanted to block off the areas like towards in the pathway of the art rooms, which they did 2 years ago, I don't understand why we can't just, as Joanna says, have the school building, which is our public building. And it also gives our 18-year-olds a chance to really think about going and voting rather than just, on their way to English class to stop in. So I really, really would like the select board to reconsider backing away from 24 ask because I intended. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy.
I just want to qualify.
Yes.
You mentioned in my comment at the last meeting that, the whole point of terrorism is to make people scared, and we shouldn't change our plans or whatever in response to some perceived threat. But I think if that's the reason why we're talking about closing school, then that's kind of a bad reason, unless there is a credible threat and risk assessment shows that we should do that. But it sounds like the reason we're talking about this is more about parking and access and that kind of stuff. And I think that's a different conversation. And I also have the same question about close school for snow days. We do what's the thing that they do in the spring? March intensive, which is I don't know. I think if we had to close school or as a parent, if my kids didn't have to go to school for a day, I don't think that would be a massive impact. But that's just my personal.
All right,
It's
Rob.
about as clear as mud for you in
Yeah.
terms of direction.
Yeah. So sorry, Jay. I will take an opposite position from you.
I think, I guess if you're closing the high school and not other school, I mean, a lot of people have a real problem when school's closed as a parent.
That's true, yeah.
It's just,
But it was just the high school. I'm not saying all schools, I think just the high school.
So Rob, it sounds like it should be a conversation. And 28 and beyond is clearly part of the remit, and maybe talk about this year maybe as well, just as a,
Sure.
as a start.
I do think, so what will come up is the union contracts. And they specify specifically what are in-service days, what are teacher training days, what are, and then there's a provision for snow days and extended school into the spring, summer, or wherever, beyond a certain day, when school starts. Those are all part of the union negotiated contracts. And I'm sure that's part of how this is going to need to play out. But I'll raise it with Jay and his team, and we'll go from there.
Great, okay, thank you.
It's 20,
Okay,
20, yeah.
25 West Wheelock. I'm sorry.
Was the 2020 presidential election at Lebanon Fieldhouse?
Yeah, that was in the field house.
We had one in the field house, I don't remember.
That was the COVID year.
Was it the presidential one?
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
was it?
It was 19. No, 20,
No, it was
2020.
2020. It was November
2020.
2020, wasn't it?
It was actually quite nice, I liked it there.
Michael Hensley was in the middle of the parking lot, crowd control, spacing people out.
Yeah.
So I
And
recall.
there were a lot of people.
It was, we had,
Well, I think part of it was presidential election.
yeah.
But the other part was none of us had seen other people. We're like, oh my gosh, we can all get together. Not really, but you.
Okay, all right, let's turn to a discussion of 25 West Wheelock and ground penetrating radar, graves, tree roots, and other miscellanea.
Can I start?
And I'm gonna, I have to
Oh, you can
recuse
recuse
myself.
yourself.
That's all.
I really enjoyed reading this. Thank you for reading it. I was like, first of all, I first started, what the heck are you making me read? And then I got into it. It was really cool.
so you should
Especially when they look,
join the
I mean,
planning board.
you know, this was very much ultrasound stuff. I like this stuff a lot.
Where are those bones?
So
I'm done talking for the night.
I will say in response out of those,
I was being sarcastic.
no.
That was quite serious.
The beauty of being in Hanover is this kind of detailed attention and technology put to use in this way. It's fascinating to see how the college in particular navigates challenging issues and comes up with solutions that address compliance with our ordinance and are building code compliant and designed appropriate. So with that in mind, I'll jump into this. The town of Hanover has a provision in its zoning ordinance that requires a 3-tier sign-off on any projects that encroach to within 25 feet or closer than 25 feet of the bound property line of the cemetery. And it also allows for encroachment into if it doesn't disturb certain elements of the cemetery. And in this case, the college has submitted a proposal that meets the criteria of the zoning ordinance, section 524. As zoning administrator, I've reviewed and signed off on the application. Your public works director has also has to review and sign off on it. Public works director has to apply the same criteria that the select board has to provide or comply with. And with that in mind, in the deliberative portion, so I put this mistakenly in the discussion section of your agenda, so I would ask that you carry it over to business requiring action to consider a vote. But at the end of the day, if the board concludes that it meets the criteria as your zoning administrator and public works director has, I would recommend you take action on it, and I proposed a motion in my review for you to consider. Happy to answer any specific questions.
I had a question, and that is, the director of zoning had a recommendation, and
Yes.
the director of public works had a couple recommendations.
Yes.
Are those, can we include those? They all seem good. Like, I would like them to do our recommendations.
I would, yes. I would suggest we modify the motion I prepared to condition it upon those recommendations.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
And do you want to just remind us what those recommendations
I
are?
cannot, I have it highlighted and now I've lost it on the pages.
It's the two Meredith Christensen from Robert Houseman, zoning compliance.
Yeah, the one was that you have a plan in the event something goes awry and you find some human remains. That was Ralph's. And then Pete had suggested that that the applicant be responsible for the protection or removal of all trees in the cemetery affected by sheet piling and anchors as deemed necessary by the town. Meaning that if something becomes, unsettled and it's a risk, that we can say, hey, you have to address that, right? The drainage pipe crossing the property line up to 10 feet into the cemetery be upgraded as recommended in the 2016 engineer's venture study. That seems very important to me, especially since it's kind of a gully and there is some pooling back there, and we have the study that says it should be upgraded, right? Any maintenance required obtains approval from the select board and cemetery trustees prior to proceeding. That just seems like good practice, especially since we now have a very involved board of cemetery trustees. And then a license or easement be obtained from the town for soil anchors and future maintenance. And that's just to clean up any questions with who takes care of what tree is the way I understand it. But yeah, if you could explain the easement thing, I always get a little bit confused about that. Who gives the easement to whom, about what, and.
We would be looking to issue this. So I think the practice has been a license agreement. And the license agreement is simpler than the easement. If you recall, easement is considered a transfer of ownership, one of the 5 bundles of sticks in property ownership, which requires compliance with 4114A or town meeting approval, where the select board can enter into a license without going through those steps. And what Pete is suggesting here is that they'll leave behind the anchors that hold the sheet piling in place. And if those if for any reason something fails associated with those anchors, it impacts the cemetery, they're responsible for the maintenance of that, correct that problem. So not unlike ECSC, where we had a very large hole and significant sheet piling and very long anchors into the cemetery below the grave sites. This would be the same situation where the college is responsible for what they put in the ground and any impact it has on
The town obtains a license?
We issued them a license.
Oh, we issued them a license?
Yes.
Okay, it was the word obtain that was confusing me. So maybe we'll just,
It's from the town, obtained from the town.
okay. Got it.
So Pete's recommendations are on page 17, and there are additional recommendations that are separate from that.
Yeah, one in my review.
There's one in his, which is just that if you find, if in any unlikely event that human remains are unearthed during the construction, that there's basically a response protocol.
Got it, I see it, yep. Okay, that's on page 15.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion that incorporates that language.
Should say our staff recommendations, or we could put all the bullets in.
What do you need for a motion?
He has it.
I thought you had it written down somewhere, I just couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's on unnumbered page 3 of my memo. Is it based on the findings of the zoning administrator and public works director and our review of the proposal? The select board concludes that the proposed construction, excavation, and building activity near the cemetery, in or near the cemetery will not endanger public health and safety. And then it would be subject to the 6 5 bullets, I believe, 6 bullets.
6,
5 from Pete Kobaki and
Yeah.
1 from me.
yeah.
Four.
So I
Four.
could move to, based on the findings of the zoning administrator and public works director in our review of the proposal, the select board concludes that the proposed construction, excavation, and building activities near the cemetery will not endanger public health, conditioned on the 6 recommendations from our town staff, our zoning administrator, Rob Hausman, and public works director, Peter Kabaki.
Oh, you forgot the word safety, which is in there.
Okay?
Friendly amendment to include and safety.
Well, it's not really an amendment, it's just,
Oh, public health
I
and
forgot to
safety.
read the word.
Right, okay. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Arthur seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you.
Unanimous.
All right, unanimous. Well, yes, with 1 abstention.
Yeah, I recuse myself.
Well, I don't think she, not even abstention.
I don't think, I can't vote at all.
Yeah,
Yes,
she
sorry,
can't.
sorry.
Recuse
With
myself.
one recusal, yes, thank you. Okay,
I can't speak. I can't do anything on that.
okay, got it.
I read the code of ethics.
I read the
Yes,
code, well,
yes.
I'm well versed in that particular code.
Well, there we go, that's the next topic.
Yep.
Select Board Code of Ethics.
Town official. Code of
Yes,
ethics.
so,
That was good.
yeah, Rob, tell us the provenance. This was passed by the Select Board?
Yes, I failed to update my memo, however, on Thursday, midday Thursday, I was able to retrieve a 2016 approved Code of Ethics adopted by the Select Board and inserted it in your package for your consideration tonight. I was requested to have it on the agenda so that you could discuss it. The original ask was draft something, which I did, and then realized I didn't need to because it had already been adopted. With that in mind, happy to entertain any specific questions, address any issues you might have about the current policy or.
I had, there's just some repeat of a paragraph in there.
On page 2.
Yeah.
On page 2, and I thought that the second, I was just keeping the first recusal means to remove. Recusal means to remove oneself completely.
As opposed to abstention. Yeah, it's,
And versus the next paragraph which starts town officials, board, commission members. I don't know, it should be consistent.
It repeats almost exactly, except it adds the word town from the second sentence on.
And it
So
says-
you said you would include the first sentence?
Well, it just, it's not exactly the same because one is you shall not deliberate versus a recused person shall not deliberate. So there's just a pronoun thing. So I think it's better to not use first person.
Where are you?
Yeah.
Page 2 of 7.
Yeah, so use the first paragraph and
That's
not,
what I
not
think,
the second
yeah.
one? Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So
are you seeing that, Rob?
use it's the third, under policy provisions on page 2, use the third paragraph, and you can just X the fourth paragraph because it's a repeat. And a less good repeat.
Are we gonna reapprove these?
It would require you to post them and hold a hearing and approve them.
Sometimes they do all the definitions first, which I would have found helpful. So I would flip that. Just our other policies and zoning ordinance and stuff, they always have the, so that's just moving section 2 definitions to the top.
After purpose.
I think,
Purpose.
yeah,
After
I
purpose.
think it's usually after purpose, yeah.
And I also, it should be just select board checked, because there's board of selectmen.
Yeah, that was my next thing.
Okay. So we're actually talking about bringing this forward.
Again.
We'll read. Yeah, okay, good. And then,
Well, it is our policy, it's
It's our
just,
policy.
we'd be reaffirming it with maybe taking out some unnecessary repetitions,
reordering it,
yeah.
And then making sure that everyone gets a copy or gets the memo that this is our policy. And,
Well,
I mean, part of it,
we
it
could
kind of,
post our policies maybe on the town website. But,
Yeah, there are a lot of policies hiding out there, and like this one, Rob, that we don't know where they are. I was talking about that with
it's a
Alan
process,
a long time ago, you know, it's just showing the shifting repository of information from paper and memory to digital. It's a tough problem, because there's tons of policies that we've approved that we don't remember.
I think we can chase those and, you know, we have a page that needs to be updated that has our ordinances, the select board ordinances. And we should also revisit some of those. There's some fairly old ordinances on the books that include prohibition of dancing on Sundays, I believe. So
can't play cards on Sunday either. That was my grandmother's rule, so.
wait, so was the salsa thing a problem?
it was Saturday.
That was Saturday. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So I'm sure we can come up with a light page, you know, that would mirror the ordinance, that would have our policies in it.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And then number them and allow them to be searchable.
It's gonna take some digging, unfortunately.
Once we know what we're looking for, it's not that hard to find. It was the target year that I was able to figure out.
Yeah.
In this particular case.
That'd be great, Rob.
We'll get there.
Thank you, thank you.
So in the meantime, do you need so the idea is we'll clean it up, it'll be posted, and then we'll adopt it.
Probably September, so we can get the proper notice
Great.
cleaned up. I would suggest, and it's something that I didn't mention, is that one of the things we may want to do is a signature page.
Yeah.
That they've received and we're signing that they've read them and understand them, which is what is our practice with the employee handbook.
Good idea. Yep.
As long as it can be an electronic signature page and it's done online or whatever.
We can do
You know,
that.
get that.
Good.
and something like this, we could have it like adopted in 2016 and updated,
Yeah.
whatever, the same way we do the zoning, so.
Yeah, you shouldn't eliminate the first adopt kind of
And it might,
iteration.
in terms of, as we move into standardizing our policies, it might even make sense to have originally adopted on the first page, 2016 revised, 2024 updated or
Yeah, right
something.
now it's always on the last page, I think, right?
I know, but it's like,
Be helpful to have it up front.
I mean,
Yeah.
effective date's fine, I mean, it's just, whatever, as long as it's, I like the idea of standardizing it, and I think Atha's suggestion is awesome. Getting it easily accessible.
Good, okay. Thanks, Rob. Anything else on that? Let's turn now to town manager job description. So thank you also for this, Rob. And can you just give us the background here in terms of provenance also on this document?
The town manager's duties, authority and duties come straight out of statute specifically. And the concern was that the job description didn't read like a job description and didn't have the specificity that may be needed or wanted. So in looking at this, I tried to ensure that these duties, the powers specifically entrusted to the town manager are outlined. And then I tried to clarify how the select board and the town manager interact. And I also tried to specify the supervisory controls over the town manager, and then the minimum qualifications, so that they were very specific with regards to municipal experience and education in particular. Happy to answer any
Can I ask
questions.
A couple questions, Rob. How old is the original one? I didn't see a revision date on it. Or did I miss it?
I would say that it's fairly old. Let me see if I can.
It's okay, it doesn't really matter that much. Don't waste your time, Rob. So I was a little worried in reading through this. I'm really glad to hear that you did this, because this seems like it's so prescriptive, meaning, every law, it seems that there's a lot, the changes is incredibly dramatic. I didn't want this to be some sort of administrative bureaucracy overlay that was just onerous and a pain in the neck. So these are your words though?
These are my words based on the statutes.
Okay.
And yes.
And in your opinion, obviously because you wrote it and are submitting it, it's a good product.
I think there's some, I was a little rushed trying to get it in the packet, but there are some formatting changes, but I think the town manager's job description should be clear as to what the state statute requires the person filling that role to do. And we should be making it very clear in the job description.
That's like writing your job description. Now that you accepted the position.
Working on the part that I'm working on right now is the financial reporting.
So is this still a work in progress, Rob?
The customary practice would be to have it, looked at by our HR coordinator or director, and then a cursory review by council. But I was asked to have something for your discussion today, so we were able to do that. I'm confident that the end product will be very similar to what you have before you, if not identical, unless you choose to change it.
So what I would recommend is that why don't we, between now and the next meeting, we have 2 weeks, why don't we take a look at this and forward any recommendations? I guess you can forward them to me and Rob, and we'll traffic light it. And then maybe pass it by council. I mean, the virtue of having this is twofold. One, in relation to your work, but also in relation to search activity. It'd be good to have something we can point to. So.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, I know that there are job descriptions for directors, some job descriptions within departments, as we try to have job descriptions for all jobs. And I just want to make sure that as this is like the big job, is this the format? Does this provide everything that we need to have in a job description? Because sometimes you've got major duties, sometimes you've got expectations being, 70% of your time is this, 20% of your time is this, 5%, it depends. So it would be just
that we maybe should think about, like, when you upload the job description, it has you fill out these categories almost, and it has like the top one and all the, especially the municipal ones are all very standard too in terms of what they're asking for, just to put on the site.
Right.
So we should probably get those,
standards.
work on that as well.
But as there are many things that are required to run the town, and standardizing job evaluations, this feels like an HR task, but we leave that in your given that the town manager's duties is to assign as needed tasks.
Okay, so Rob, you want to think about it in the context of broader job descriptions, posting criteria, that sort of stuff. Okay.
I'll bring Katie in on the conversation. we'll make sure we're not missing anything.
Thank you. Any other questions on that? Let's turn to business requiring action, the first of which is appointment of new authorized representatives for loan and grant assessments with the.
Forgot one.
Forgot the
Sorry,
discussion.
hang on.
Discussion of the August 20th.
Discussion of the discussion session.
Discussion of
A
the
listening session.
listening session. I'm sorry, yes, you're right. That's right, okay. Yes, and I think at the end of the packet, not quite the end of the packet, we're looking at pages 70, page 70 of the packet is a document that, Rob, I think you put together in consultation with Chief Dennis and maybe others. So do you want to walk us through, I don't think we need to walk through the entire document, but maybe we just walk through the structure of the session and our objectives.
Sure. First, Chief Dennis and Matt Burrows have reviewed this document and have signed off on it in its current format. It has been sent to Jeremy for his review. He's away right now. I'm expecting him to give me feedback when he returns. The goal of this, as I understand it, is to set up a way in which the community can engage in a productive and structured listening event with the following approach. Charlie to give a brief overview of the way the police responds to incidents in general. And then the format will then have some Q&A from the moderator to the chief. And then from that, we will break out into listening sessions. The idea being that each select board would take a breakout group, and each select board would be assigned, would have a scribe with them. And the
I like that part.
The scribe is there to do very specific things. The select board are there to make sure that the structure is followed. And from those small breakout groups, we would then report out the findings. And with that information, we would then sort of, from a staff and select board perspective, sort of debrief and figure out where to proceed. So with that in mind, I thought about how to create some structure, outline the guidance and guardrails for the event, and then put them before you for your consideration, and see if they're, the structure, the problem, I think the structure has to be there primarily because there's litigation pending, there's, cases pending, and we need to make sure we tread lightly in certain areas. And again, the board promised a listening session, and here's the opportunity to have that listening session in a structured way.
So I would just suggest, in terms of a purpose, I might add the fact that it's an opportunity to understand police protocol, or, kind of, because we're hoping that Charlie kind of says, when we know something's happening, we anticipate an incident, this is our incident response, and or however we frame it, we knew there was going to be a protest, they put in protocol, and this is what it is to address it. And it could have been, on May 1st, it could have been in October, it could be, a high school dance, or, whatever. But I kind of feel like I see this as an opportunity for the police department to say, hey, we know this is what we do. We plan for this. We know we address incidents. And in a generic sense, this, because for me, when Charlie shared that information with us, it was really helpful. I learned every time I go to the police department or listen to chief, I learned something. And so I see this as an opportunity for him to share their protocol, within what's acceptable. You don't wanna tell I don't know if they're secrets, but I mean, you want people to understand what's going on. So I just feel like the purpose should be, we're gonna hear about standards and we're gonna listen to the questions and issues that the community has. So that would be I think that's our intent, right?
Absolutely, yep. And I think on here it says, police chief briefly overviews standard police preparation and response practices. So I think.
For instance, so if it was just part of the purpose,
Yes,
Like a chance for the
Yeah.
community to listen and understand it and create an opportunity to, for the town officials to listen and understand.
yeah, so it's a
Yeah, so it's both.
two-way.
so,
I like in the note-taking, there's this element, this key points, questions, and concerns raised. Maybe we can also sort of bring that up for the reporting out, like the key issues and feedback. I just think adding the idea of questions and concerns would help that. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, the session structure on number 4, reporting out. I think key issues and feedback could include this idea of questions and concerns.
And you, in terms of your note-taking,
Yeah, the note,
Guidelines.
it's in the note taking, but just if somebody reads the first part, then they won't necessarily feel like, they have to speak to an issue, not like you just make a point, have a question or have a concern. So like the note taking, I thought it just brings these 3 words that helps make this feel more real and substantive. And if we could bring that up to this number 4, reporting out, that could be helpful.
okay. You got that, Rob?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So we will have a select board meeting on the 19th, so the night before, so that will give us a chance to just discuss any logistical issues relative to how the meeting is run then. But I guess in the meantime, if any of you have things you want Rob to address, we should convey them to him. Nancy, you had a question or comment?
While Nancy's coming up, where are we holding this?
The high library, we have the entire
Mayor room,
basement reserved,
Thank you.
big mayor room and the entire
the
downstairs.
entire downstairs.
Great, so we've got a couple different places to put people. So I'm still Nancy Carter on Barrett Road in Hanover, if anybody needs a cupcake brownie. And so my question is, and probably I'll come see you guys on the 19th too, is how will you know you've been successful, or how will you know it's been more than just a sitting in the dorm late at night chatting? In other words, what are going to be your metrics for we've done more than listen? One thing when Joanna was talking, and it made me really pleased to think that and my understanding is that the only questions the chief will get will be from the moderator. Is that accurate? He's asking that citizenry not address him. Is that correct?
he's not asking that. That's kind of a discussion that
We're not going to put him through that.
We're not putting him
Through that,
No.
yeah. So then my question is, can that time, even if it takes a little time, that time between the chief and Jeremy be fairly expansive? And Joanna mentioned, it'd be a good time for us to understand police protocol. I think that 20 minutes or however long the two of them take would be a really great time to kind of diffuse some of the questions that the citizens are going to be sitting there going, I gotta say something, and so forth. And so if they hear that in the beginning, they may be, less combative, less urgent, whatever we're going to call it, when they get into small groups. So maybe those two men can prep as thoroughly as possible to kind of pull the thorns out of the porcupine early. maybe.
That's our intent, to make sure the questions being asked are
Super.
some of the anticipated questions.
Yeah,
And some of the questions we've heard, the people have come in, and so that's the whole idea, is that
sure.
kind of education or sharing of information from the police perspective.
Yeah, because I think it's going to be a lot more sharing of information rather than just attitudes. I don't think that people want another kind of town meeting where I have an attitude and you have an attitude and we're both going to, stand at the table and talk to each other until our attitude prevails. So I think that being able to think about, and maybe it's not on the 19th, maybe it's afterwards, it probably is afterwards. So what are we going to do with all of this information? What does it mean for us as a town? And then to make sure that your citizens know what those ideas are. And they won't necessarily be conclusions. I mean, no reason to be hard on yourselves that you have to come up with, answers. But just to let folks know.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, I think the takeaways and the deliverables are yet to be determined.
Yeah,
But I think
yeah, no,
they're important.
I can hear that.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
So is Jeremy planning to ask the chief questions then during the overview?
Yes.
Because I think that would be, that's really great.
So the idea is that Jeremy would have questions that are anticipated and engage with the chief with those questions, so that there's a little give and take between the chief and Jeremy, and the ability to have some clarity on some things before they're brought to the floor.
And it keeps it in more of a conversational tone, which is just easier for probably everyone to participate in and digest, as opposed to a speech.
Yeah, it'll be more information.
Yeah.
Is there any thought of having people send questions in to Jeremy just so that people feel that their question has reached the right person?
So I
Or to further diffuse it?
I think that that's yet to be determined. We haven't really discussed that, but I think we can probably easily anticipate a dozen questions.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think that
So we try to, first it's coming up to speed with what, I was at town meeting and I remember the promise the select board made. The challenge for me is making sure I understand what the goals and expectations are as the select board, and then how we frame it or structure it in such a way that doesn't impact investigations, other activities, the right to know requests that are pending and other things. So, we're gonna navigate that. There's no perfect.
It's just like, it's a way to not ask the wrong questions that would get us in a pickle, but to get questions that we might not have thought of that people have.
I think that's a fair way to approach it. The challenge is somebody has to weed those questions or evaluate those questions for appropriateness. And that's outside my skills.
Yeah, and I forget that when Chief came and talked to us, you weren't privy to that discussion. So, I mean,
we can probably come up with a dozen questions.
you probably could.
So why don't we do that as our homework, is to come up with a dozen or so questions, feed them to you,
We'll work through it.
work with Jeremy and Dennis.
Matt's involved.
And Matt, yes.
Because I think we probably have minutes. There were people here asking questions over the course of the past 2 months, and then we also have, I've had people ask me questions about stuff, and some of them, we're not gonna be able to answer, and some of them are easy answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if, for the viewing public, if you have questions, send them to our chair. Or vice chair, or any of
there
us,
we
and we'll try to tee them up.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else on that? No?
No.
Okay, all right, let's go on to business requiring action. And here we have the appointment of new authorized representatives for loan and grant agreements with the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. So this is really kind of a substitution exercise, I guess, but also you're expanding the list. Is that right, Rob?
Yes, so currently the town manager is named as the sole signature on these, and it requires the signature to actually seek reimbursement. And what I'm hoping for is to have myself, Pete Kabaki, and Ellen appointed as signatures so that at no time are we delaying the request for funds, which could happen. And I'm also going to change this up slightly. If you act on this, I would also ask you to act on a broader authorization naming me on all other documents, contracts that were signed that require verification of authorization so that we can update. We have several other contracts that we discovered today, for example, that we need to certify that the select board authorized a named person to take action on behalf of the town. And
Right. I was about to read the proposed motion that you wrote here, so how do you want to change it?
Just read that one specifically.
I move to appoint the following positions and individuals as new authorized representatives for the New Hampshire DES loan and grant agreements with the town of Hanover. Robert Hausman, interim town manager. Ellen Bullion, there's a comma that shouldn't be there. Finance director. Peter Kobaki, director of public works. What do you want to add to that?
I don't on this motion.
Okay.
I would
I'll
ask.
second that.
Yes.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous.
I would ask a second motion to name your interim town manager as signatory rights on all existing contracts. And
I move to appoint the interim town manager as signatory
on all
Right.
existing contracts.
on all existing contracts.
That's all you need.
So help me God.
Right. Is there a second on that?
If there's no God in it, I'll do that.
All right, yeah, that was frivolous. All right, so we are seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Our lead and copper contract, for example, which is the one that interns visited Jenny on, name Alex specifically, and there's a sworn statement that he was authorized. We now can send the minutes updating that signature.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
Terrific. All right, we now have a consent agenda. Oops. All right. Of which, just get to it. Here we go. There are 3 items. Minutes from July 15th Select Board meeting. Appointments for the Capital Improvement Program Committee, Zoning Board of Adjustment, Hanover Bike Walk Committee, and Planning Board. And donations to the Etna Library.
Yeah.
Does anyone want, any select board member wish to take any of the items under the consent agenda out of the consent agenda?
Well, in terms of the minutes that were presented, it feels like since the interim town manager was here at the meeting on the 15th and had been named interim town manager, he should be noted that he was present. And I also think that in terms of, we also had like public works director, finance director, we had, I think the fire chief was here, I think Josh may have been here. So I mean, it felt like there's a lot of staff here.
So you want to pull it out?
I want to put that in.
Right,
It's
but you
not
want to
there.
pull it out of the consent.
So, yeah,
well-
I guess, I don't know.
So here's what we'll do. You have your list of folks and just hand it to the secretary. He will liaise with Carrie to amend the minutes, and you can make a motion for the amended minutes.
We gotta pull it from the consent. though.
So we're gonna pull it out, yes.
I think we
Thanks,
should
thanks,
pull
Alice.
the Hanover Bike Walk, we're gonna do a whole bunch of appointments, so rather than just do this one fellow, who's very nice and I very much like, I think we should just wait on that.
So you're gonna wait.
Yeah, just because we haven't done, there were people absent in the summer, but we don't know if they want to continue, and if we haven't We haven't reappointed everyone.
So we're,
Like, we haven't suggested reappointments as a committee.
so each
We
of the
do it
three
as a
items
committee,
will
not
be
just
pulled
a
out of
chair.
the consent agenda and then be voted on individually. The first is the minutes from July 15th, which have been amended. Would you like to make a motion, Joanna?
I move that we approve the amended minutes of July 15th.
Second. Jared seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. So appointments, we have appointments to the Capital Improvement Program Committee, Zoning Board of Adjustment. We're not going to appoint Hanover Bike Walk Committee, so.
I had one question about the zoning board of adjustment. We have somebody who has an incredible financial background. And I was just wondering if that's really the best use of her volunteer skills to be on the ZBA. Just, I know that we're often looking for finance committee members and there's, trustees of trust funds. I mean, so, I'm just asking, since you, Rob, were part of the interviewing process, and I know we need warm bodies in these positions, but just a question. If perhaps you could just explain the rationale in putting her on the ZBA.
Well, we made a specific public plea for ZBA members. She was one of 3 people who replied within 4 hours of the request.
Wow, that's great.
Wow, that's awesome.
And as is our practice, we send them a bunch of information about the zoning board, an article that Bernie Waugh wrote when he was on the New Hampshire Municipal Association staff.
35 years ago. Yeah, okay. Wanted to be clear.
Which is still relevant.
Yeah.
And then we invite them in to have a discussion with the chair and staff. And 2 of the 3 were eager to serve. And those names are presented to you tonight. The 3rd, we have not had a chance to meet with. And we prefer to meet by Zoom only.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to figure out the logistics of that if I don't have a forum in the room, how that impacts all of this.
Okay.
So the real challenge for the zoning board is we're at 5 members currently. And an applicant has the right to ask a continuance or get an automatic rehearing if 4 or less, or 4 members are in attendance and there's a tie vote. And Bernie will be going away for at least 2 months. So we'll drop to 4. And this will give us an opportunity to have 6 members to draw from. So hopefully seat 5. And then perhaps we can recruit this individual for other volunteer positions also, or shift her well.
Okay, I was just asking because I was like, whoa, this is like premium candidate for finance committee. Why are we putting her on CPA? So, but I mean, it's totally, I appreciate your discussion and support the motion.
Okay. So again, Capital Improvement Program Committee, Zoning Board of Adjustment, Planning Board. Okay, we're going to skip the Hanover Bike Walk. So is there a motion to that effect?
I had a question about the planning board because we just appointed Matt Stover.
As an alternate.
Okay.
So
When we voted on, we should clarify that because when we voted on it, it was just as a member. Like that's how it was in the. Just.
I will make sure that my review is clear. So Paul Simon is a sitting board member as a full member. Matt Stover is an alternate. And the goal here is to carry forward with Paul, given his tenure on the board and his skill set, and groom the alternates to fill the void as they occur. The planning board likes to promote alternates up, and I think Matt would be a likely candidate to make that next step, along with our other alternates.
Okay, motion for committee and board appointments as amended.
So moved.
Okay, second.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And the last is donations to the Etna Library in the memory of Reed Drucker. Don and Robert Klein, $18. Margaret Bragg, $100. Robert and Susan West, $50. Bruce and Patricia Atwood, $25. Valerie Stevens and Richard Kagan, $50. Gerald and Ellen Klatz, $100. Leslie Brown, $25. Peter Blayler, $100. Motion to accept the donations as listed above.
So moved.
So moved. Second, Jared, all those in favor?
Aye.
With appreciation for all of those. And that is it. We turn now to committee reports. Jared.
The only, I guess downtown's not really a committee, but we had a meeting a couple days ago, just in general for downtown. Pretty much every business is seeing about a 10% decrease in foot traffic, guest count. We are assuming that this is a mix of construction, probably some economic impacts, maybe some kind of parklets and parking kind of issues, but in general, the businesses in the town are seeing a decrease in foot traffic. We spent some time talking about the relationship between Dartmouth and downtown and how we want to continue to rebuild that relationship, and had some really good ideas about that. Students are starting to arrive on campus soon. But there's about 300 of the kind of early arrival students that are going to be coming within the next week or two, and then the rest of the student body in early September. So we're working on orientation as well as like a welcome packet. And Rob, I'll get with you at some point, but we want to get something from the town as well. You know, downtown businesses that'll put something in a bag, but also something from the town. Kind of like we talked about of, how do you register to vote and all that kind of stuff. We have some time, we have a couple weeks, but not that much time. So we'll have to figure out what we're gonna put in there, and then continue the discussion on kind of future structure and funding and how we're gonna keep this group going. So that way we have an entity in the downtown that represents the downtown and the downtown alone, and is reacting to the interests of those businesses and institutions that are right here in downtown Hanover. Thanks.
I have a quick question. How does your less than 10% foot traffic, how does that compare to what, downtown White River's seeing, Lebanon? Do you have a sense? Because certainly in my limited travels this summer, it seems like everyone is down. So I'm just wondering if you think Hanover's unique, or if that's, is there chamber information or New Hampshire tourism stuff, or?
I will find out and report back. I don't have the answer to that.
No, I mean, it's just more of what else is going on around here. So.
Yeah, and I mean, we had some pretty bad weather. It was super hot for a while, and it rain streaks, but it's hard to say. What I've heard, again, nothing, no real data behind this, is that there's a lot more people traveling internationally and kind of getting out post-COVID than have been in the last couple of years. And a lot of this data is based on 23, which was, there was a lot of domestic travel, and it was certainly a banner year for our restaurant.
So you're down 10% from last
From 23, yeah.
Thanks, it's really interesting. I have nothing to report. Board of Advisors, what's it called? The Board of Advisors, the Advisory Board of Assessors are meeting tomorrow at noon here to review 3 cases.
No Olympic highlights, you want to?
I have a lot of Olympic highlights, but
Okay.
I don't want to bore you with those details. I'll give you a slideshow at some point.
Okay, good.
I'll narrow it down to like my 10 favorite pictures.
All right, that would be awesome. So the Hanover Finance Committee met on August 1st, last Thursday. There'll be an organizational meeting. Greg Snyder takes over as chair, Rich Greger as vice chair. There are two open seats on the finance committee, so we are seeking members. And yeah, we can find.
She said she had 10 to 20 hours a week. I was like,
Well, there you go.
that's like put her to work, man. Sorry, Heather. But ZBA shouldn't take 20 hours a week.
Oh, all right, maybe we'll follow up. But in any event, looking for two new members there, so. Okay,
Nothing to report.
all right, Jenny.
We have a planning board meeting tomorrow here, 7 o'clock. And then we have a shared streets kickoff meeting with tool design group consultant Carolyn Medish. So exciting. And then David Anderson is hoping to present a revised complete streets policy, which is just basically the same policy but more robust to this board at some point, because that's in our well, we'll see when we adopt our chapter 11, but one of the recommendations is to update your complete streets policy, so we're ready.
Okay, all right, thank you. Rob, anything else?
There's nothing to add. It would be interesting to know if the pink route that is now operational reduces the traffic issues in town and the parking concerns. And we see an uptick in pedestrian traffic as it relates to visitors, not construction workers. So one of the things that the pink route is attempting to address is the volume of construction workers in town. And hopefully we see a change. So I would ask that we all keep...
For the viewing public, do you want to, let's
So the pink
unveil
route,
the pink route.
so the pink route, which went live on August 1st, is an advanced transit route funded by the college that will run through town out to Lot 9 in the AM and PM peak, and then up to Centera and Lot 9 on the off hours, so that you can go to the co-op or any up in that area. And it's scheduled, I believe, to run for at least 2 years at this point.
Where's lot 9?
Lot 9 is at the end
Jesse's.
of Jesse's, that large parking lot.
So you can catch the pink route and go to Jesse's for lunch and catch it back. So, but it's also,
Yes,
Yeah, the college is paying 100% of it. So that the construction, basically for the big dig geo exchange, the people can park there, come in, but now we'll also have a bus at Centera for the first time, which is really exciting. Because before you'd have to still kind of navigate from Peter to Centera, which is, I mean, they're building a path now, but it's still a pretty challenging connection.
so it's gonna do a loop. It'll come down from Jesse's, come into town, go down Wheelock, up Old Tuck Drive.
Like a short loop, so it'll
It's a
be
short loop, so it's gonna be like, they're shooting for, I think, 10-minute headways,
Yeah.
15,
10 or 15.
high frequency.
high frequency during peak times and down, like we do the shuttle, downtown shuttle, you have high frequency downtown.
Everybody can use it, because your other shuttles, you have to
This is-
show.
This is advanced transit.
This is
It's
Pink
advanced
line.
transit,
Yeah.
it's
And
18.
it'll be, yeah, it'll
Well-
be on their advanced transit maps. It'll
It is
be
up.
like the
It's up
whole
already,
thing,
yeah.
It's up and running.
And
It's really exciting.
So this is something that we should bring up.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, because I think what you're gonna see, it'll be interesting to see, because right now, we have contractors parked in different parking lots on campus, because it's summer and our parking lots are more empty. So you can get to your car and dash. Now, your cars, you can take the shuttle back and forth, but you might see more foot traffic downtown as a result of, contractors. I mean, I don't know,
Yeah.
but there may also be more parking available.
It's super frustrating. I mean, construction and just the construction workers' cars, and the lot behind Lou's is like, it is a disaster. It's a disaster every day. Like, just,
Well, we're making some good money out there for the town. It doesn't help the businesses, but it helps offset.
So
the
my only
parking
reason for
costs.
bringing up the Pink Route is, my hope is that we see a shift and freeing up parking so that we see people in town that want to be here for the services and restaurants and retail.
great, love it.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Anything else? Okay, we do have need for a non-public.
Yes, we do.
We will move into non-public session discussion pursuant to RSA 91-132A, B, D, E, and L. And we need a motion to that effect.
I move to move into non-public. Chamberlain, yes.
Okay. Callahan, yes. Wait a second. Second. Jared seconded. Callahan, yes. Callahan, yes.
Whitcomb, yes.
Burke, yes.
All right, okay.
We are now in non-public session.
Yes.
Thanks, Douglas.
Jerry, would you like me to stick around?
Yes.
I think we're okay, thank you. Yes, thanks.